the really interesting thing is that when you think of the world as a yield problem, you can solve a lot of problems with the exact same infrastructure.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Alan, the Chief Sales Officer of R4 Technologies, a leading name in the software development space. At RevGen AI, we build AI automated outbound and authority systems for B2B founders. And this show is where we spotlight growth-minded leaders driving innovation in their industries. Today, we're going to explore how Alan and his team are creating impact, scaling growth, and shaping the future of cross-enterprise AI. Alan, it's great to have you.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great. Let's jump in. So can you share just a little bit about how R4 Technologies got started and what inspired you to focus on cross-enterprise AI?
Sure. It's actually a very interesting story. R4 was founded by the same executive team that built Priceline to $160 billion worth of market capitalization. And their mission was to take the same yield optimization techniques that drove that value for Priceline and apply it to other businesses like retail, like manufacturing, consumer products, you name it. And the really interesting thing is that when you think of the world as a yield problem, you can solve a lot of problems with the exact same infrastructure. So companies can deploy one infrastructure to solve any number of problems when they're couched as a yield problem.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think getting a lot more of your existing systems is one way to definitely boost profits because you're not adding any new infrastructure. But I'm curious, what is making R4 stand out for your clients in today's software and enterprise AI landscape?
I think it is that Priceline heritage because it was no accident. It was a successful company that stayed very profitable for a very long period of time. And to this day, in Booking.com is a very profitable company. And that whole idea of applying yield and thinking of their problems as yield problems is capturing their imagination. So think about it. You're a retailer. You want to get your shoppers to purchase more. People think about that all the time, but they never think about it as truly as a yield problem. I have an outcome I want to drive against, the consumer raising their average ticket price. And we can bring in all this pattern recognition technology that drove success in the airline business in for that retailer to understand exactly what price should the consumer have, what time should you offer it, what channel should you offer it through, what specific product should you focus on to drive that yield, that incremental purchase that you're looking for.
Wow, that's really fascinating. And I'm sure you could explain a lot more in depth on how that actually works. But in a broad sense, what shifts are you guys seeing right now in terms of retail or consumer packaged goods that excite you or are shaping how you're serving your clients currently?
I don't think of it so much as a shift as a as a hardening of cynicism around the AI platforms that have promised and not delivered. There's the statistics for enterprise were something like 80% adoption rate among corporate enterprises, but an 80% failure rate. And then ChatGPT came along, and large language models have a 95% failure rate. So among pilots that were started. So we're finally at a point where people are saying, I just want something that'll work. And one of the downsides of these tools that have been tested is they're very much purpose built for a single thing in mind. And they don't really share data beyond those single things. And you'd asked earlier about cross-enterprise AI and what's the attraction to that. The attraction to it is companies have grown with these siloed functions, these specific point solutions to solve problems that gather their sets of data, but they don't share that data to other functions. And as a result, McKinsey estimates there's something like $3 trillion of wasted value around the world because data is trapped in these little silos and pockets of productivity and not finding its way outside. And the exciting thing for people is A, what I've been doing isn't working, but B, there's this interesting side effect of what R4 does and how we do it that allows us to drop into all these various functional and data silos, extract the data we need, and then drop the optimized answers back into those business systems. So it becomes almost a why not question. I've tried some things in the past 10 years that haven't worked. R4 looks like something that can work. I don't have to change anything I'm doing because we integrate with existing systems. and it's an easy on, easy off value proposition. So there's almost very little risk anymore for someone to not want to try a new solution to what has been a vexing problem for the last decade for companies.
Yeah, and you highlighted it perfectly. Everyone is excited about AI, but it's very difficult to actually get it to work in the way that you want it to work. It's something that we're, hyper focused on here as well, is how do we actually get, the scale, but also the quality to, be at the level that we want it to. Um, and if you can go a little bit more in depth about your process and framework, I read a little bit that you call it R4XCM. How does that actually deliver measurable results, like the sales lifts and forecast improvements that you guys cite that you've been able to bring enterprises?
Sure. I think one of the operational secrets, and not to get too deep into the data and geek out over the tech, but one of the things that has really stymied other applications is this requirement for perfect data. So they'll ask you to cleanse your data. They'll ask you to harmonize your data. They'll ask you to make sure there's all perfect rows and columns. And the reality is this world is made of imperfect, incomplete information. It's rare that you find that wonderful set of perfect rows and columns that can inform your predictive modeling capabilities. Yet that is what many of these applications force their companies to do. So they're constrained at what they can do and how fast they can do it and how well they can do it by the data quality. One of the underpinning secrets of R4 is we sidestep that problem completely by creating what we call a digital twin, a marketplace model of the people, places, and things that make up each company's business. And when we bring in data, we don't look for the perfect rows and columns. We just extract attributes from that data. We populate those people and places and things and the entities within them. And then we use that to inform our predictive models. So we don't need perfect data. We don't need to cleanse it. And in fact, we tell our customers, don't cleanse the data, because when you do, sometimes you're removing valuable signal that we would otherwise catch. So one of the things that's really attractive for our customers is we say, don't do anything to your data. Send it as it is. Don't spend a moment. Just export, and we'll do the rest. And that has been a very powerful motivator for them. That's kind of the foundation. And then as I was mentioning before, the cross-enterprise nature of this and the fact that we're a yield optimization engine, we can look at something that the marketing department has, a problem that they're trying to get somebody to buy more. We can look at their supply chain, the fact that they'd like to reduce the level of inventory they have. We can look at their merchandisers who want to adjust the level of merchandised and facings they may have in a store to maximize the velocity of those specific products. All those things allow us to then work across that enterprise and drive the specific results, the yield that each of those enterprise stakeholders want, with one single platform and one single model attached to it. So it's a very powerful value proposition.
I agree. I think that is a huge value proposition, that you can just take their data as is and drive such improvements. Because yeah, everybody, gets a massive headache when they actually think about how to implement all these processes. And if you have that figured out, then you can definitely help them out quite a bit. I'm curious about your internal strategies at R4. What's working best for you right now in terms of marketing or client acquisition when it comes to big enterprise clients?
Well, as you can imagine, there is a ton of noise in the marketplace. 10 years ago, we were among the first, and already Forrester and Gartner were calling it AI washing, where people would just stick AI onto the back of their name and suddenly watch the magic happen in terms of demand and interest. And that's still there. Many companies are still very interested in exploring their options as it relates to AI, and they're open to new capabilities. But the fact is, they are getting bombarded by dozens, if not hundreds, of companies every week clamoring for their attention to get them to spend money with them. And so we're a startup. We're a small but mighty company, and we don't have the resources to arm 100 or 200 inside salespeople to start manning the phones and sending email and trolling LinkedIn profiles and whatnot. So we really rely on senior level executive sponsorship that is typically gained through independent executive relationships or advisory boards that we have created specifically to help us drive access to the executive level. And oftentimes partners serve that same purpose. So Our aspiration is not to build a giant sales team that can go out there and do this all from the ground up. Our aspiration is to find some very influential executives that can help us open doors and to work with partners who already have those relationships in place.
I agree completely. It's something that we've shifted our focus on internally as well. In the age of AI, it's quite common that, you see just the volume of content everywhere becoming greater and greater. And so there's just more and more noise and it's harder to stand out. And so what we've really seen helps is creating those network relationships. Things still kind of operate off that base of human trust. And that's really how we focus our services as well. In terms of, the challenge when it comes to growing with that reliance on a network, what has been the biggest challenge in terms of, consistently filling your calendar with qualified enterprise companies that you can actually help when you are relying on this type of marketing?
Yeah, I think we suffer from the law of small numbers. So there's a lot of variability. Some days we get peppered with more meetings than we can handle, and other weeks we're hearing crickets looking for something to do. So there's no easy answer to that, other than we've worked hard to expand our network and to broaden it, so we don't have those fluctuations. But that is right now one reality of our existence is we do have peaks and valleys in the demand that we see.
Yeah, I totally understand that. If you had a magic wand, what's one thing that you'd like to change, either in your business or change something to make your own clients' success easier?
Good question. One of the things that I've come to experience at R4 is if we get the right audience, we have a very high win rate. So it is an exposure challenge for us. So if I could wave a magic wand, I would look for the VPs and C-level folks that own the functional areas that we can help, to just be a little more open-minded to a small company coming at them and opening their door, because when they do, they generally don't regret it. We've got again a pretty good track record, and we go head to head with some of the biggest and brightest companies, and we win because we've got our unique offering. It's just that challenge of getting through to somebody who actually can say yes is our biggest wand waving potential.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's about rising above the noise to really be able to create that opportunity to showcase, like you said, you guys have a great value proposition, and it's clear that you've been able to drive meaningful results for enterprise companies. For any listeners who want to connect or learn more about R4, where is the best place for them to find you?
Our website, r4.ai, is a great place to start. It's got tons of information there. They can learn about the different aspects we serve, the different use cases we use our technology to address. And certainly they can reach out to me directly. My email is aflohr@r4.ai.
Full. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you.